Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wrestling Royalty. Welcome to Gimme a Hill, yeah, and welcome to this Friday night feature where tonight we will be previewing SummerSlam, which is tomorrow. It feels like it's gone very, very quickly, but we are going to be covering all the matches of SummerSlam and we'll be going about it in a very quick fashion. But I can see straight away we've got moderator Mark is in, giving us the news. Apparently, Michael Cole signed a new deal earlier in the year. That's been confirmed by one of the outlets. We have Danny Green in. Hola. Hello. It's a nice kind of international feel with the Olympics going on as well. So I appreciate the Spanish there. We've got Sex Machine in saying yo and Nothingness Void. I'm coming Roman Reigns, bro, coming back and returning like 7 times in a year. It's good to have you here, though. Thank you very much for everyone for joining as well. I do believe we're going to have Sam from Gimme a Hill, yeah, is going to be joining us at some point as well. But he was life's getting in the way to join straight away. I'm sure he'll be here imminently, though, as long as I've sent him the right code across. But as I say, we are here to speak about tomorrow night's SummerSlam coming live from Cleveland. It's another stadium show for WWE, and there's some massive matches on. So much so that I can't kind of beat around the bush too much because there's just so much to get through. There's tons of matches. Every single one, apart from CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre, is for a championship as well. No tag team matches, which is a bit of a shame. I always like to have something to split it up a little bit, but we are going to see DIY defend their titles tonight on SmackDown, I believe. So what do you feel about that? Tag team wrestling seems to have taken a bit of a back burner pretty much ever since it main event in night 1 at WrestleMania 39. Do you want to see tag team wrestling on the big shows like this? It seems very strange that we haven't had the women's or the men's, either of them, aren't on the card at all. So let me know your thoughts on that while we go into the first few matches. John's joined us as well. Says, hey, Andy. Nice to see you, John. I hope you're having a good afternoon over there in the States. But yeah, let's dive straight in. What have we got first? We've got the nice SummerSlam Cleveland. So interesting, they've been kind of like building this one up. I've seen a lot of stuff on social media where the prices have been discussed a lot. I think WWE are just ramping up their prices, seemingly just to kind of get that line of it's our record gate again. And it's a bit confusing as to why they think a stadium is going to. I don't think it's sold out. I think there's a lot of spare seats still kicking around. In Cleveland for tomorrow night. So if you are in the area, keep an eye on Ticketmaster because I think they might drastically reduce those prices. But it's a shame because you want to see full stadiums, and I think WWE are maybe missing a trick with their pricing structures. We saw that over in the European shows, very expensive. They then kind of went on to brag that this is the biggest gate that we've ever had, etc. Ramped that up from France to across to Glasgow as well and increase the price even more. So goodness knows what they're going to be doing by the time we get to Las Vegas next year for WrestleMania. But I digress. We'll talk about the rest of it instead. And first up, because these are all massive matches. I think there's a couple that are like slightly less built, but let's get straight into it. The massive championship. Damian Priest is going to be defending against Gunther. Now, obviously, we remember Gunther got this shot way back when he won the King of the Ring tournament over in Saudi. We'll see later on that Nia Jax won the Queen of the Ring. So this is why he has the shot at Damian Priest. And a lot of this build-up has been structured around Gunther going full heel, basically calling him was it like a street rat or something? It's very Aladdin from that side of things. But yeah, very, very strange that the way they've gone around it. Gunther until this point is very much been the matter sacred. And they've kind of twisted that into you and Judgment Day have besmirched that title. I need to bring back prestige to another title after I did it with the Intercontinental. So this one, though, is built to the stage where obviously we've had Damian Priest win the championship back at WrestleMania when he cashed in. But now, fast forward a few months, and what I think a lot of people probably thought Gunther was nailed on to win it. Now I'm not so sure if Gunther walks out with the title. I think there might be some shenanigans going on. I feel like, again, it's one of those ones where you have to trust WWE and their creative side of things and the way they book this. But it kind of feels like if Damian Priest were to drop it now at SummerSlam, where do you go from there unless there's a big storyline? And I can see in the comments, we've got the potential for Judgment Day to play a part in this. So again, nothing is void originally said. Damian is retaining, or Gunther wins due to Finn interference. Now, this is a very popular thing I've seen online of people saying Finn Balor, watch what he does throughout SummerSlam, whether it be in this match or one that we've got coming up later. Finn Balor could play a key role in title swapping hands. So let me know, are you expecting a Finn Balor turn at SummerSlam? If so, is it this match he gets involved in, or are we going to see it in the women's match that we'll talk about in a little while? But what's Mark saying? Goodness, confronted Damian Priest at Damian Priest Live ahead of SummerSlam. Yeah, so they were doing that Damian Priest live show, aren't they, before SmackDown, where they were having that kind of like, is it a documentary screen? I think, Mark, you'll be able to keep me right on that one. I believe they were screening like a new documentary that will air at some point, either on Peacock or on the network. But they were selling tickets for it. I don't think they were too expensive unless you were looking to do a meet and greet, and then it ramped the price up a little bit. But yeah, it sounds like Gunther's turned up and gate crashed the party for Damian Priest. Nicely building that as well. So yeah, let's see what goes on there. But in terms of like how this goes, like Gunther is certainly going to be the pick to build that title up again, because I just don't think that Damian Priest has kind of elevated that title. We obviously saw Seth Rollins do his very best to push this new title across as far as he could go, till his body completely gave out on a couple of occasions, and even then was like desperate to kind of make it a big thing at WrestleMania, which we definitely saw. And then we saw Drew take it off him, and then his championship reign lasted 5 minutes. Again, we'll be talking about Drew McIntyre in a little while. But then we had the Damian Priest cash in. And he's kind of he's grown in the sense of he's growing into the belt, in my opinion. But for me, I would have liked to see a bit more star power behind the belt this early on in its lineage. Obviously, we've got Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre as the other holders, but I do feel like Gunther could hold on to this belt for a long time if he were to win it. It seems a bit strange that they only want to change the titles at the Big Four, the Big Five, or whatever you kind of want to call it, if you include Money in the Bank. But SummerSlam, arguably second biggest. Royal Rumble obviously is up there as well. Survivor Series, we found out that Vancouver is going to be the host for that one, I believe, in very late November. So yeah, interesting times whether Gunther can kind of pick this belt up and then push it forward for the next year or like just less than a year to WrestleMania. There's plenty of dream matches that you'd like to see Gunther holding that title and going against it. We haven't seen Ludwig Kaiser as well for a little while. So yeah, be interesting to see if he plays any part. I know he had an injury and he's kind of been out for a little while. So do we see Ludwig at all? So keep your eyes peeled on that one, especially if there is any kind of shenanigans with the Judgment Day. Let me know in the comments though, who is your money on, Gunther or Damian Priest? A couple of people have already been in there. So yeah, let's move on very swiftly. I'd say on the card, unfortunately, again for Bayley, it was the same at WrestleMania, and it's the same again for SummerSlam. I kind of feel like her story here, especially when it comes to the title, has been somewhat put on the back burner. Nia Jax is here in this position because she won the Queen in the Ring. Nia Jax is obviously, like, since she's returned to the company, I think she's been put in a very prominent position. I think she's slightly improved since she was before. She obviously had that kind of reputation, whether unfairly or fairly gained, that she's dangerous in the ring and injures people. But I do really feel for Bayley that she hasn't really had any kind of feud to build her into a very strong champion. It kind of feels like if there is going to be a title change, that maybe this is one, or do they use this as a catapult for Bayley to say you've overcome the odds of beating Nia Jax, and the kind of size difference is there. Very strange in the way that they built this up, and the kind of the war of words that they've had between the two of them. Not really something that's hit home for me. I think at one point Nia Jax accused Bayley of having some sort of Brazilian butt lift or something. That's not what I kind of want to see. I thought we'd move on from that kind of stuff. But that's the way it's gone for this particular feud. I can't talk about it too much. I'd like to think that Bayley's going to start her career from here. But yeah, as Mark says, there's also the added factor that neither of them could walk out with the belt because Tiffany has got the Money in the Bank. So, yeah, really interesting to see whether we're going to have a new champion. Could we have 2 new champions like we did at WrestleMania? Let's keep an eye on that one. But yeah, it's a good shout by Mark there that Tiffany Stratton could be walking out of SummerSlam. It doesn't seem like they want to keep the Money in the Bank, especially the men's. We've obviously seen that come and go already. Will we see the women's one hold on a little bit longer? Do they think this is the right time for Tiffany Stratton to push her? And kind of have a new era and a new face as the SmackDown Women's Champion there as well. We've got GWF Women's Wrestling. I think Nia's winning, but getting cashed in on by Tiffany. Kind of like Alexa Bliss did to Nia. Charlotte or Trish might even return to face off against Tiffany after that. Who knows? Be really interested to see whether we are going to get any of the kind of like bigger stars back. Charlotte's been out for absolutely ages. We know she's been close to a return now for a little while. She's been in the gym, really hitting it hard after a pretty gnarly injury. So let's keep an eye on whether Charlotte kind of comes out, and Charlotte versus Tiffany Stratton is a really interesting one because we get to see Charlotte maybe build up a little bit of the sides of Tiffany, where yes, she's got her character work down. She's great in the ring, but could she be even better? Could Charlotte push her to that next level? Now, I know a lot of people will then get very frustrated. Is Charlotte going to be the one who is straight away thrust into another title shot? That was one of the things that people would get very upset about before. There's probably more people who want to see it put on the back burner and let her kind of earn her way back up to a title shot. But on the flip side, she would be very good if we do go with a new, younger champion who hasn't really had that experience and exposure before. Mark saying he's heard that Charlotte could be there tomorrow. And GWF Women's Wrestling is giving a shout out to Sam. It's Jason Solomon. Good to have you in, Jason. Thank you for joining. I'm not sure if Sam is going to be joining or not. If he doesn't, as he says, he will be back, I'm sure, very soon. As I did say, there are some huge matches going on here. We've got possibly one. There's an argument to say that this is the hottest angle that we have at the moment in WWE, and maybe it should be main eventing. It might be lack of consequences why it won't go on last, because this is very much contained within these 3 people as it stands, and they've twisted and turned. We've had injuries. We've had people like not be able to compete for a while, and they stretch this out all the way from the Royal Rumble, and it hasn't. At times, it's felt like it's gone a little bit long. But now we've definitely got to the stage where we're going to see these guys get in a ring. And I hope they put on an absolute clinic. I want them to kind of beat the crap out of each other. Seth Rollins letting them bend the rules. I'm sure he will. I think that was the whole point of doing that referee's discretion and the talk on Monday, where he basically just said, like, it'll be up to me whether I think you've gone too far or not. So be interested to see how that plays out. A lot of people speculating what Seth freaking Rollins is going to be wearing as well, because he's outlandish referee outfit on Monday. Apparently, it's just the start, and he'll be doing something different. So for me, this is the one that I'm tuning in each week on a Monday or a Tuesday morning normally to kind of let me get really excited about it. And I've been waiting for CM Punk and Drew McIntyre to finally get their hands on each other. And I think this has been really clever. And I think the addition of Seth Rollins in protects CM Punk a little bit as well, just in case there's any kind of ring rust. If there is any kind of like injury flare up again, you have that person in there who can kind of slot in because he's a referee. He can get into it with Drew McIntyre. They've managed to kind of paint that picture already. So it's not beyond the realms of possibility that if CM Punk doesn't get all the way through the match, Seth Rollins can kind of just get involved and you won't really notice too much. But fingers crossed that doesn't happen and Punk's body holds up. I think this is a blow-off match that a lot of people have been waiting for. Drew McIntyre's done fantastic work character-wise on social media channels. I think the picture that they put up a couple weeks ago now with Jack Perry was fantastic. So it'll be really cool to see these guys finally go at it. I don't really see anything other than a CM Punk win. I don't think Drew McIntyre needs to win. I think the biggest thing is whatever happens, Seth Rollins is going to have a major output or input into what happens at the end. We've got Chris in. I'm just looking at the comments coming through, who says they are generally excited for tomorrow, which is fantastic to hear. Hopefully you're even more excited once we get to the end of this as well. And then we've got Jason saying, what if Seth just decides to end the match because both of them start getting on his nerves later in? It's possible. I think they'll try to avoid that kind of finish, but this could also, I guess, set it up for maybe like a triple threat match. But I think the money moving forward at some point is going to be CM Punk versus Seth Rollins. The rumors that we were going to get that at WrestleMania. Will they put that on hold till next WrestleMania? We'll certainly wait and see where we're going. We've got a late addition in the sense that Sam has joined us. Now, I will warn you, because he doesn't look like he normally does, because he's not got his hat on. He's told me to wait, and maybe that's what he's reaching for. There we go. I didn't want to scare anyone. If you're not used to seeing Sam without his hat, you might have got a bit of a shock. But now he's all ready, and he's prim and proper. Here he is. He's joining us. How you doing, Sam? You all right?
I'm all right. I'm in my bedroom. Yeah, so this is new, isn't it? I realised I can just click the link and I can do this on my phone and no one can see you, Jess. Don't worry. You don't need to put more clothes on. Right, there we are. If I keep it facing this way, we should be good. Yeah, yeah. I'm really sorry. I'm late. We had a bit of a crisis at like 5:10 to 9. So here I am. But so I thought the least I could do was jump on my phone and say hello. Sorry.
No need to apologise. It's always good to have you here, and whether it's halfway through it or at the beginning, at the end, you're always welcome to come on. So thank you for joining. And we get a bit of a view where the magic happens in Sam's bedroom as well, with a Highland cow behind you as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Do you like our cow? We kind of have a country farmhouse. No one can. She's telling me off. No, I'm not poking. Oh my god. Yeah, we kind of have like a bit of a cozy cottage farmhouse thing going on. But there you go. I'm not flipping it your way. You've got your dressing gown on now anyway. It's fine. There you go.
So Sam, you've picked up at possibly the bigger match of the night. And obviously you've had your the say on CM Punk when his return back in January kind of went a bit off the rails when he got injured. Drew McIntyre, I know you've been a big fan of this rivalry and you've hoped that it would just ramp up. Are you excited for tomorrow? Are you a bit nervous that they won't be able to deliver on the build-up? What's your thoughts?
No, I think they're totally going to deliver. I really think they are. But really, it sounds really, really bad. Like, this has potential to be a really, really awesome match. But I don't think it's going to be because it's overbooked with the Seth Rollins thing. However, I do think it's going to be excellent TV because of the Rollins thing and because of all of that. So I think this is going to be a really, really, really fun 20 minutes of our lives. And it's going to further a couple of storylines. But I don't think this is going to be a massive barn burner. I don't think this is going to be the thing it could have been. I think this is going to be sports entertainment on speed rather than I'm hoping to be proved wrong. Like, it could be both. But like, Rollins will be wearing a really flamboyant zebra shirt when he comes out tomorrow night. We already know that's what he's going to be doing. And the whole point of this match is he doesn't like either of them. Only he can contain it, but it's all going to fall apart. They're both going to end up battering him, or he's going to end up battering them. This does not. I don't think this ends with a clean pinfall victory. I really don't. This is not going to be a G1 climax match, put it that way.
I saw a really interesting clip where someone had said, if we don't see this, what's the point? And it was the one where John Cena is the special guest referee, when it was Wade Barrett versus CM Punk. And he started the match off by like slapping Wade Barrett instantly, and then he pushed CM Punk. And it's something that we probably will see a replay of tomorrow. And I do agree. I think that's something we could have, we could see. But yeah, I can't see it being a clean match or clean finish. And the other thing is, it's a bit of a, CM Punk is a technician, and that's the kind of style that he wrestles in. And Drew McIntyre is very much a brawler, heavy hits and stuff like that. So I don't think that that styles clash normally adheres to a 20-minute banger, like that you'd see on an AEW. It's not that kind of match that we're going to see. This should just be the guys absolutely knocking 10 shades out of each other, and then Seth Rollins being Seth Rollins in the background and let them get away with it to some extent.
Yeah, well, Brett and Sean though, like I know Sean had good mat game, but I always looked at Brett and Sean as polar opposites. Obviously, Brett being the consummate professional, the mat boy, the absolute grade A wrestler, where Michaels was the showman who ran around you in rings and hit you with super kicks until he chopped you down. So like they could, but it's the role is reversed a little bit here with Punk just needs to avoid the big chops, where McIntyre just needs to land a Claymore. So, and that's what's so much fun about McIntyre is not many people. I'm sure someone's got a list somewhere of the people who have kicked out of the Claymore legitimately, but not many people do. The Claymore means something in wrestling as a finishing move. So that makes every match with McIntyre really, really exciting, because once that move lands, it could be over. And for CM Punk, I also think they need to protect Punk, because we do need to now have a proper CM Punk run, which we've not had since he came back, even at AEW. Not really. Like, we had that tremendous MJF feud, and it was tremendous. It just was. But since he's come back just under a year ago, Survivor Series War Games, it's obviously he got injured, so it's been a bit stop-start. Like, it was great in the Royal Rumble. Then we had the unfortunate release of that footage, which even made me not want to watch him for a while. But I'm trying to get past that as well, because I have some strong feelings on things like workplace violence and stuff like that. But ultimately, I've always been a CM Punk fan as a wrestler. I don't think I'd want to go for a pint with him. But I think...
I mean, he's straight edge. I don't think he'd want to go for a pint with you either.
He can have a straight edge of whatever the water, like a boring guy. But yeah, I'm the opposite of straight edge, aren't I? So the living embodiment of the opposite of it. But although I've anyway. But I think we need to now have a decent CM Punk run. But at the same time, no disrespect to him when I say this, he is a bit injury prone. We can't have him in the ring every week being a workhorse. We need to use him sparingly and use him the right way. But the good thing about Punk is he can make must-see television just by having a microphone in his hand. And that's what was good about him when he was injured. He could still kind of get involved and do his cross-legged thing and talk on the mic. So I just live now in perpetual fear of him getting injured a little bit. So I hope.
I think that's going to play in tomorrow as well. I think that they'll play on that. I think Drew McIntyre will do a few like hold and rest locks on his arm and his shoulder and elbow, etc. And they'll go down that route. It definitely feels like CM Punk's going to have to wrestle as the face, the baby face, and Drew McIntyre as the heel. And that's because I can't see it the other way around. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, like it's a really weird one, this, and this is why I love what they're doing with the storytelling at the moment, particularly their portrayal of heels. They're doing it really well they did it really well with AJ, but I don't know if this is going to be canon, but AJ and Cody have kind of squashed their beef at a house show in Japan. But but they've done it with Liv Morgan. Like, Liv Morgan has done the Harvey Dent. You live long enough to see yourself become the villain, and the same thing has happened with McIntyre, and it's been great to watch. They can't do that same thing with every heel turn. We do have to have just some people scumbags, but it's been great because it's like, for me, from my point of view as the audience, and I said this on Twitter the other day, like, Rollins is the only babyface in that match, because Adam Pearce is just as frustrated with Punk as he is with McIntyre, and for good reason. Punk keeps getting in the way of the promotion's business. So we're at the point where, okay, it's not 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. McIntyre is clearly the heel, but Punk isn't. Like, Punk's never going to be a babyface to everyone. Like,
McIntyre's a justified heel.
Jess just said McIntyre is a justified heel, and she's right.
Yeah.
But where CM Punk is a babyface, he's just a very angry babyface. He's making a lot of bad choices, and historically, babyfaces have often made poor choices. So I suppose we're not doing anything differently.
Yeah. We've got Tom from Tom Talks Rubbish is in. Always good to have you, buddy. And your channel's looking awesome. So keep the great work going as well. There's a couple of questions that we will pay off, and I'll bring them up when we get there about the main event and Roman Reigns, etc. We will get there because they're kind of hand in hand. But yeah, I think CM Punk's going over in this one. Personally, I think it kind of prolongs it a little bit. I think as long as he comes out of it injury free, this is probably going to be the start of a trilogy of matches. But
yes.
We'll see. I think that's why Seth Rollins is there as a sort of buffer, just in case things go wrong. But fingers crossed, everything goes okay for CM Punk. And going on to back to the championship matches. That, by the way, is the only non-championship match on the card tomorrow.
Good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Who'd have thought? I hate it when they leave a championship match off a big pay-per-view. It winds me up. If any promotion does it winds me up. Like Ring of Honor leaving the pure championship off the pay-per-view before the last got right under my skin. But what I love about SummerSlam, like I still do think it's a little bit light. It could have one or two other matches on it, like tag team matches potentially. But I like that all the major titles are being defended. I love that. That's how a pay-per-view should be.
I do wish there was a tag team belt on it, though. I feel like someone like DIY, especially with Johnny Gargano being from Cleveland, it does feel like he should have been on the card rather than on SmackDown. But it feels like that's the spot that they're putting that tag team division in, is like you get to open the sort of weekend, and they'll do a great job tonight. That's not in doubt. I just kind of feel like if you want to push the tag team belts to the next level, they need to be on cards like SummerSlam.
I agree, because they're getting to the point. I think now they're kind of getting to the point where go-home shows are becoming completely pointless because it's the same show every time. They kind of they put on great matches, but it's almost embarrassing that those matches are on it because they're the matches that should have been on the pay-per-view and were relegated, and that's quite frustrating for me. Like I'd rather they just had different matches on there that were wholly original, that like build hype towards the show. But what they also have on there is they always have the pull apart. They always have the pull apart. The one, the one we've seen it a million times. And they have sometimes have like the one last promo, like when Cody and Roman had their one last promo before WrestleMania, like the calm before the storm. That was masterful. We were in the building actually, weren't we? For the one in LA at least. But yeah, I feel like go home shows on Raw and SmackDown are no longer must-see TV. It's almost like get on with it kind of thing.
As Mark's pointed out, they've announced a 3-hour pre-show and they haven't announced any matches for the pre-show. Now, to me, that just seems absolutely ludicrous that you would expect people to sit through 180 minutes of content where, to be honest, the vast majority of it is the video promos that they then put on before the matches. Now, I always like to watch those just before the match because it gets me hyped up for the match. I don't want to see them twice. And I've been watching
more than twice, mate.
I've been watching the Olympics, and they've been doing the same. They played the same thing about the French swimmer like 6 times, and I'm like, 1, I don't really care because he's French and I want to watch the British stuff. But 2, after watching it for the first time, it loses its effect. Like it doesn't matter how good that promo or that PR is, you're not giving me anything new after that point. So, for the love of everything that's holy, can we please have, like, on a 3-hour pre-show, can we at least have 2 matches, especially when the tag team belts aren't on there?
Yeah, and like this is why I miss 205 Live as well, because like that was always something reliable to like put on the pre-show, and they've also got a colossal undercard. Like, why don't they use main event, right? Or let's call it what it used to be called back in the day. If you're as old as Andy and I are, and you remember Heat, they should call it Heat again. Go back to calling it Heat. Bring back Heat and have little miniature stories on there with the undercard. Just you've got a show there. Just do it.
There are stories outside of what's on the, like, you've got it's not the hottest, but you've got stuff like Xavier Woods obviously going up against Karrion Kross, and that's like something, if you're trying to heat that up, get it in the stadium. That's the easiest way to do it. Just boggles. Anyway, we'll move on. LA Knight versus Logan Paul for the US Championship. I'm going to say this now at the top of this. I'm not going into anything that Logan Paul said about like politics and stuff about the Olympics this week. This is a wrestling show.
Yeah.
I try and keep Logan Paul, the person, separate from the wrestling to a certain extent. I think he's losing here because they always build it up when it's a home show for whoever it is. They normally lose. That's the way that WWE have always have seemingly done business for the last few years. Logan Paul being back in is where he grew up, and the way this has gone, I think this is what they've made a big thing about it being his 4th or 5th since he's won that title defense. He's barely done anything with it, and I just feel like if you don't give LA Knight this title now, LA Knight is kind of like is flushed. He's jumped the shark. I don't see how you can get him back to a position where you can heat him up. But the US title is a fantastic first belt for him to have in WWE. But I'll throw it over to you, Sam. What are your thoughts? Do you concur with a lot of that, or?
Yeah, but I think if he's winning or not, LA Knight, it depends on what happens to Sami Zayn. See, I'm of the view that LA Knight wins tonight, wins tomorrow night, and Sami Zayn loses to Gunther. And I'll take it for White.
Bron Breakker.
Yeah, well, I think for starters, they want to strap a rocket to Bron Breakker's back, and that's how you do it. Secondly, like we've had that moment with Sami Zayn now. I do think they're going to embroil Sami eventually in the bloodline story when Roman comes back. I think we're going to have a moment. This is just me fantasy booking. I think there's going to be some kind of unification eventually of the old bloodline. And I mean that with the Usos, Roman and Sami, potentially going into war games with somebody else against this new era of the bloodline. I think they need Sami freed up and away from championship pictures to being involved in that story. Like they're already kind of warming the bath for it with him and Jey Uso becoming a tag team again, even if it's just indirectly, like unofficially. So they want Gunther. One of the reasons they also took the IC off Gunther is they want to skyrocket him into the heavyweight, the big gold belt, picture. That's part of that reasoning too. So I think Damian Priest loses. I think Gunther wins. And that has a knock-on effect because you can't have too many babyface champs and you can't have too many heel champs. They've got to kind of keep the balance straight. And if you notice historically, they've been pretty accurate with that 2-2 thing. Not forever, but they usually rock back to it. So yeah, I think LA Knight wins this one because I think Logan is probably going to take a break from the company for a bit. And I'm not even on about his Olympic comments. I'm on about just I feel like at the moment he's not there quite often, so it's probably time for him to step away for a bit and come back when he's got that drive back and he wants to be a bit more involved. Because I won't criticize him before WrestleMania. He was on TV every week, but he hasn't been doing that recently. So let him go off and do his own thing. Come back, stick him in a new feud with somebody because he's a great heel.
Yeah, I just think timing-wise as well, if they already didn't think about taking the belt off him, this is probably... He made himself even more of a heel, and then it's kind of like he'll get his just desserts, and it also will create a bit of buzz because if he drops the title, Logan Paul is obviously one of those names on social media that people will just talk about anyway, and it will be like, oh, the WWE do it because of this, and they will never have to answer that, but at the same time, it's like it's good. Any promotion for them is going to be good promotion.
Free publicity in it, yeah.
We've had Dom in the comments, who is currently away in Finland, having a nice, well-deserved holiday with the family. So it's lovely to have Dom in. I actually got to see Dom in the flesh last week. I had a bit of a drive down to Hull before we went away, and it was lovely to see him. And he was very excited about SummerSlam. So he sends his love. I would presume that's not just to us, but to everyone. We've got the voting king himself votes for CM Punk. Drew's winning apparently in Dom's opinion, and he says that's going to set up Seth and Punk.
I don't think anyone's winning. I think we're saying that. Yeah, I think it'll be. Oh no, actually no. I've had my say. I think Punk. I think Punk wins. But something happens to Rollins to make him. They've got to evolve. Like, let's be honest, WrestleMania is Punk Rollins, isn't it? That's what we're all here for.
Yeah.
So they've got to start moving towards that at some point, don't they?
But I think they'll just stretch it. This is why I think it'll be a trilogy as long as everything goes okay with Punk. I just don't see it being over this quickly, which is why I think you have Punk win this one, Drew win the second one, and then
rubber match.
You probably get Hell in a Cell match at War Games.
Well, Punk said he doesn't want to do Hell in a Cell at that
Well,
press
no, he
conference.
said he didn't want to do it as the first one, and he said that I think that was what he was saying is like you can't fantasy book a Hell in a Cell match as the opening match. That's just bad booking. Drew will go to the title, I think, against Gunther. It'd be cool to see Gunther versus Drew. I won't lie, I'll be happy with that. And he's also, of course, Dom is gutted that the White Six aren't on SummerSlam. We are getting that 6-man tag, though, aren't we, on Raw, which seems pretty cool. We finally saw them take off the masks, and they're going to be up against the Creed brothers. And I presume that they just call themselves the New Alpha Academy or something. But we'll wait and see if there's like a new name for them. But yeah, the Creed brothers and Chad Gable. But case in point, that's a really cool storyline. Nowhere to be seen on SummerSlam. And I'm not being funny that the Bayley one, there's not much heat behind it. That could have been on the pre-show, and you swap it in with the White Six, and you give them a big entrance in a stadium, and that would be a cool visual. But maybe it's a logistical thing of like you need it to be nighttime. Will it be nighttime? Because you have to put them on later in the card, etc. But again, it would have given us a tag team match, and it changes the pace. I think that's where they're missing, and I'm surprised that they haven't got at least one tag match. But makes Raw exciting, I guess. Dom's gone for LA Knight to win here too. Mark, as mentioned earlier on, apparently the Hardys are in Cleveland. Whether they would be up for another WWE run, I'm not 100% sure. But he put earlier on, got some news. PW Insider reporting the Hardy Boys have met with WWE officials earlier today in Cleveland. No word what was discussed, but I've heard that some content was filmed. I'd like to think that's leading to the Hardy Boys being inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Well, Jeff's injured, isn't he? Isn't Jeff out on injury? So
did he get injured in TNA or something, did he?
I believe so, yeah. I could be wrong about that, but he's been off TV. They wrote him off TV in TNA, and I could have sworn it was due to injury. They've made it look like the system have beaten him down, so now Matt's out for blood. Because they had a pretty awesome street fight. Matt Hardy had a pretty awesome street fight a few weeks ago. But yeah, so if anyone thinks we're going to be seeing Jeff Swanton this weekend, I'd curb your enthusiasm.
Mark says agrees you can't have LA Knight lose another title match. I think the stink around him would be too big at that point if he does. Cortland, I think you say Cortland. Everyone likes LA Knight. He could possibly win the title.
Man's not wrong. Let's not forget, Andy. I know it was a long time ago now, but do you remember when we were at NXT Stand and Deliver in LA? All I could hear, and it was a bloody NXT show, it wasn't even the main event. All I could hear in that arena in LA was, yeah.
And that continued through to Money in the Bank as well.
Yes, it did, didn't it?
Yeah.
We were walking around. I always want to call it the London Dome. We were walking around the O2 Arena, and I remember when we were having dinner, and I could just hear people walking past going, "Yeah." So from London to LA, LA Knight has been over as Rover, and it's about WWE. Come on, and he gets massive pops every week as well. What are they doing? Come on now.
I think he's winning. I think this is his first one. It's kind of weird. Like I know what they're doing, but like transitioning from these where they're like just the snarling faces is very strange. I
prefer to what they did last pay-per-view where they had them all like dancing around or like with different poses. I hated that. It was horrific. But
have you noticed they brought back the sort of VT things where they're like kind of the live poses where they then freeze into like a sort of like screenshot. I always liked that back from back in the day, the Attitude Era, and they occasionally bring it back, but it looks like they're doing it for this one where they kind of have a sort of motion and then they stop. I think it's cool, but maybe it's not for everyone. We have touched on this one a little bit, so we won't go into too much detail. Sami Zayn versus Bron Breakker. We obviously saw Sami Zayn the last time these guys went head to head. It was a bit of an upset, which is a bit of a strange thing to say. And the building this side of things is you should never count out Sami Zayn, and you just can't knock him down for too long. And Bron Breakker, but then there was these reports where actually they just wanted to put Bron Breakker over on a bigger show and where bigger outside of WrestleMania than SummerSlam.
That's a good point. Yeah,
I'd be very surprised if Bron Breakker doesn't walk away with the title here. I think they are strapping a rocket to him, as Sam said earlier on. The company's very hot on him. They can't seem to settle on a theme tune for him, though. I think he's had about 4 or 5. Very strange.
They also need to get rid of his name because, like, I feel like his NXT name just doesn't work. Like, somebody was sat there, like, oh mate, like bone breaker, yeah. It's like he breaks bones. So like, Bron
apparently he picked it.
No, oh yeah, but I'm not being funny. No disrespect. He's a great wrestler. He's not. He's likely not a great creative.
True.
I mean, the guys like they had him down as Rex Steiner, but REKS, as in Rex, and I'm like, that's perfect because it's leaning into his Steiner lineage, which granted is a little bit tainted after a couple of WrestleManias ago, but even so, he's a Steiner boy, and Rex. It's like what does your Pokemon evolve into? Like, oh, Scott Steiner is evolving. Scott Steiner evolved into Rex Steiner. Like, what are they smoking? Get rid of the NXT names and call him Rex Steiner for the love of God, and get rid of Cale Dixon's name while you're there. And don't get me started on Wesley.
To be honest, I wouldn't be against if Bron Breakker lost here and he then went, I need to change something, and then they changed his name to just Bron Steiner. Just have him as Bron Steiner, so you can at least have that link through where it's Bron is continued, because they've done it a couple of times. Like, I think they did it with Axel, didn't they? Like going way back when. But to me, I think like that's the only way you can see it is like he gets one more shot and he does it on the 3rd time. But I think you'd be stretching it a little bit, the belief, because as Mark said, it seems like they're kind of putting him in a position where he's the new Brock Lesnar. Yes. I know Brock Lesnar never had the IC belt, but it would be kind of cool to see Bron Breakker bring that back, where it's kind of like very much you've got to win the Intercontinental title to then move up along the ranks. And we've seen it with Gunther and things like that. So I wouldn't be against it becoming the workhorse belt again. And then it's kind of one of those ones where it harkens on to something bigger coming in your future. But
also,
it's a great position.
On that very point, Andy, sorry, of something bigger coming in his future. Like, look, I'm 99% sure we will be seeing Brock Lesnar again in a WWE ring at some point, because the heat is already dying down somewhat. And he managed to keep a lot of that off him. In terms of the accusations against him, it was, you know, like, I think we won't go into all of that, but basically he's managed to keep a lot of that off him quite well. And the company have been talking about him again positively and stuff like that. So I think one man retires Brock Lesnar when that time comes, and that day will come. And I think we're looking at him. I think it is Bron Breakker, because you slayed the beast forever. You finally put, you know, that is something for him to hang his hat on, hang his career on. Because WWE often botch this whole who gets their career stuff, and no one ever truly retires in wrestling anyway. It's a myth. But Bron, I think he'll be that guy. And yeah, they do need to start the path to him becoming the immovable force, so he can eventually meet the immovable object.
Yeah. So we'll see if this kind of kickstarts that road, I guess, because I think there was a question when they did the WrestleMania London thing where someone actually asked Triple H when will we next see Brock Lesnar, and his answer was just go ask Brock Lesnar. I don't think that interview will be brave enough to go find Brock Lesnar
into the woods of Saskatchewan.
Yeah,
and, this man who's half bear. Hi, Brock. Yeah, this is Jeff from PWI. Hi, yeah. You just want to know. Tosses him like a caber.
Oh, you think he'd get that far? I think he'd be shot before he got anywhere near the front door. He'd tell straight away someone's on his property, get off. Anyway, we've got Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley. Again, arguably one of the hottest angles going in SummerSlam. I think they've done an absolutely fantastic job here, by the way.
Yeah.
Especially because I think when Rhea Ripley went out injured, a lot of people were like Becky Lynch is the champion, and then like Liv Morgan got it, and they were very down on it. Liv Morgan's work over the last 6 weeks or so has been absolutely phenomenal, and she needed the foil of Dom Mysterio. So like a big shout out has to go to Dom Mysterio and his performance over the last few weeks as well. That's not an easy thing to do, because I think I'm right in saying Dom's married and Rhea's married and Liv Morgan is in a relationship, and to make people actually believe that there's like some sort of chemistry and kind of make people go, oh, okay, this is a bit, I'm not sure how to feel about this. They've played their parts brilliantly. It's kept Rhea Ripley fairly hot while she's been away, because her name's never been too far away from TV. Like she's kind of almost been like a presence without being there. Like Damian Priest saying, have you picked up the phone and spoke to Rhea Ripley? I vehemently think there's something is happening in this match where it breaks at Judgment Day.
Balor's knife in Priest's back has been coming for a while now.
Well, do we see Dom turn heel, or do we see Finn turn heel? Like, I think
I'd say Dom, and like in my opinion right now, Judgment Day is. I think I'd say Priest and Rhea have essentially turned face, but I don't think Balor, JD, they've been a little bit more lovable, a little bit more likable, at least since the awkward Braun Strowman story was quietly swept under the rug. But did you see what happened on Raw? Balor was very valiant, didn't tap out to Gunther, was defending his friend's honor. They're leading us down a garden path. For all of us who were like, oh, Balor's going to turn on him, for all of us who've been saying that for weeks and weeks and weeks, that was our false sense of security. What they did there, they were like, no, these boys are stronger. They're tighter than ever. So when Balor's vicious, Bullet Club-esque betrayal comes in a couple of, this weekend, we'll all go, why, Finn, why? But what we all need to remember is JD, Balor, Dom, and Carlito, or Carlito's just this lovable idiot they're hanging around with. Those boys never turned face. They've like,
they kind of went tweener, I guess, for a little bit, because they're almost like comedic relief, especially with Carlito, where he kind of has his like quips and stuff, and he gets a laugh, and to an extent, he's almost taken on like an almost R-Truth style, but not as slapstick. It's a bit more nuanced, but he's almost taken on that comic relief of the Judgment Day. But you're right, you've very much got JD and Finn can be removed away to the side. But I just think it's fascinating that we could see Dom be the one who kind of stabs Rhea in the back, and the stuff on Monday was a bit of a ruse. That'd
be amazing. That would be absolutely mad if they do that.
We've also seen Finn, the stuff on, people are very, they turn into like independent Sherlock Holmes and things like that, where Finn's face wasn't scratched out when Liv had scratched everyone else's faces out on the posters and stuff. His was the only one that remained untouched and didn't have any writing on, things like that. And as Sam's pointed out, over the last few weeks and stuff, we've also seen these little like glimpses of them potentially getting out the same car and arriving at the same time. And he took the hotel key that Liv Morgan put down. So he's
up to something. That boy is up to something. The only thing that gets in the way of my theory is it appears that Liv Morgan, I always thought she was just like messing around with what's it called, Dominic, to annoy Rhea. Where in reality, it now appears that she really does like him. Andy, I'm not going to do the final match. I'm going to love you and leave you. Yep. Obviously, I think Cody. I think I'm just going to tell you quickly what I think before I go. I think Cody retains. I don't think Roman comes back tonight. I think Jimmy Uso does at SummerSlam. I think they're going to tease us a little bit longer with Roman, so I'm going to give you that now. But I've got a bath run. Before it gets cold, I'm going to go and jump in it. So I'll catch you soon.
Liv or Rhea? Sorry, very quickly.
Oh, Liv. It's 100%. Rhea's getting screwed here. Rhea's life comes crashing down. Her dirty dom, her Latino heat turns out to be a wrong 'un. And I think Balor leads a coup, and Priest and Rhea are out, so the company can push them as baby faces. That's what I think.
Well,
I think
there you go.
And let's not forget, Judgment Day did that to Edge. Judgment Day are essentially they're they're not part of Bullet Club, but they're using that playbook where they turn on their leaders when their leaders are no longer useful to them. Like that's the Bullet Club curse they call it, and the Bullet Club curse. Who did it start with? Finn Balor. Right. Well, I'll leave you. See you soon.
See you, buddy. Well, there you go. There's Sam's prediction, wild prediction potentially, but you have to watch to find out. I think this is probably the Drew McIntyre and CM Punk match, and this one are the ones I'm actually really excited for. Raw seems to be very strong at the moment in what they're putting out. But we will move on. I know there was a couple of comments as to what I think will main event. I think this is going to main event. I find it very difficult to look past Cody Rhodes main eventing against Solo Sikoa. I don't think there's as much heat behind it. There's been a lot of talk and chatter about it becoming a little bit too repetitive in the sense of Solo taking out people. I think that's been very much done with the sense of let's build Cody Rhodes as someone who is alone and doesn't have any backup. And I know Sam said there he doesn't think Roman's coming back. I do think there's a couple of issues in the sense of if Roman was coming back tomorrow night, they need to build it up, and they should have built that up to the point where those "we want Roman" chants just build and build and build to breaking boiling point, whatever you want to kind of call it, and it boils over, and then you give us Roman Reigns. They're not as loud as I think they can be, but I then also struggle to see what bigger stage they have between now and Survivor Series to do that. So unless Jimmy Uso comes out tonight as some sort of harbinger of of Roman's return, I think it's going to be a difficult one to kind of spin. We might get Jimmy Uso back tomorrow, and maybe he's the one who does that spot that we saw so many times under Roman Reigns' reign with the title, and he pulls out the referee or pulls out Solo with a hoodie on, etc. We might see that tomorrow. I also think you need Jimmy back, and he needs to be put under some sort of instructions by Roman to get the band back together, as Sam was saying. Like, do you get the likes of Jay back? Do you get the likes of Sami back? And we have some sort of reconciliation, even if it is an uneasy one. It'd be interesting because, again, Jey Uso, nowhere to be seen on a SummerSlam card. This is a guy that they called main event Jey Uso. Now, he ain't in no main event, and he's not even on the card, which I think is slightly disappointing. So it does feel like he's starting to spin his wheels a little bit, and get back to this. So it'd be interesting to see where Jay factors in over the weekend. But there could be no Randy Orton, there could be no Kevin Owens. And Mark's thinking, if we don't get Roman, we might get the others, and they'll kind of like have Cody Rhodes back. And, it's one of those ones where it's a sort of Avengers finish where he needs his like teammates around him and things like that. So they're building it up to be Cody Rhodes has to overcome these insurmountable odds of the bloodline, and then being at ringside, and, just their numbers growing each time as well. So I would love to say Roman Reigns is going to be there tomorrow, and we get at least a stare down between Solo, and that's how it goes off. That definitely feels like what we're getting at some point. It's just a matter of time of when, and the timing of does everything work out? Do they get what they wanted in terms of the reaction, etc.? I can't see Solo Sikoa winning this belt off Cody Rhodes tomorrow night. Purely on the basis of, from a storytelling perspective, Cody Rhodes chased the bloodline for 2 years trying to get that title. And then he finally won it, and he beat the last boss. I know, like, that's the one The Rock was calling it, but he kind of overcame the final boss. He overcame Roman Reigns. He got over the odds. We had that massive story, like, all come down to like the last few seconds of WrestleMania. Only for him to lose it to Solo Sikoa, it just doesn't feel like something that's going to happen. It just doesn't feel like Solo Sikoa has that aura. He doesn't have that kind of star power. He's not the person you can kind of put a belt on, especially at the same time where you've got Damian Priest potentially dropping that belt, especially at the same time where Damian Priest is still trying to make sure that he is a massive big star as well. So I don't see Solo Sikoa winning here. I'd be very, very shocked. I think it'd be one of the biggest shocks that we've had in a long time should he walk out with the championship tomorrow. And I just don't know where that would leave Cody Rhodes as well, because he'd then have to be fighting a lot of the same people for the next few months. It just doesn't make sense to me. But that is what I think will main event. I wish we will see Roman Reigns tomorrow. I don't know if we will. I think that comes a little bit later on, but you're only leaving yourself random episodes of SmackDown or Bash at Berlin, or whatever it's called, Bash in Berlin, which I don't think is big enough for them to do it. So if they are going to do it on a big stage, this is the stage. But it all starts tonight with SmackDown. Of course, there won't be a stream of it, but I believe there is a live stream that is happening tomorrow night for SummerSlam. And if it is going ahead, I believe it will be Dan. Mr. Dan Hargreaves will be covering it for you, but I don't want to put him on the spot. But keep your eyes peeled. And the only way you can definitely know is make sure you hit that subscribe button to Gimme a Hell Yeah. Make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Royalty. Hit that like button while you're here as well. It takes like a couple of seconds. You can just press a couple of buttons. Make sure you are following along, and you'll be the first to know when there is a new video coming out. You can rely on us being here every Friday. We'll be recording these Friday night features because it's Friday night in the UK. But wherever you are in the world, thank you very much for joining us. You did manage to see Sam for a little bit there as well, which is great. And we will, I'm sure, be back next week with me. But for now, have a great weekend. Enjoy SummerSlam. If you are watching along, I'm sure you'll see Dan as well. But as Mark says, tap that bell, and I'll leave it there. So I've been Andy. This has been Wrestling Royalty. This has been Gimme Hell Yeah. Have a great weekend, guys.